Welcome back to another episode of Post Grad with Asha. So today in this video, what I want to talk about is going to be what can I actually do as a licensed mental health professional? Oftentimes, I notice that clinicians get out here and they get into the field and they quickly realize, I don't want to do direct services anymore. This is overwhelming. It is extremely time consuming, and the number of subpoena requests that I get is wild, right? So my name is Asha Creary, and I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor here in the state of Texas and in Missouri. And in this video, we're going to jump right in by talking a little bit about what can I do as a licensed mental health professional. Other things I want to make sure that I make note of is that I am also a small private practice owner. I offer clinical supervision in Texas and in Missouri, mostly in Texas though, just because I'm physically here and this is where I spend a lot of my time in the space. And I'm an educator. I do trainings, all types of things. And so let's jump in this Postgrad with Asha video. So we're going to start. I'm going to give you 20 potential roles that you can pivot in which you have transferable skills that will allow you to position yourself into these roles. Now, some of these roles do require an unrestricted license, while others don't require a license at all. They only require the master's degree in counseling or a counseling-related field. And then there are positions where you can do it as an associate level mental health provider. So first and foremost, direct services. Now, of course, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you 20 jobs that you can do that are not direct services, but I'm going to include this in the 20 because direct services can look different. It can very much well look like individual, group. It could look like community outreach. It could look like anything direct services look like for you or what you imagine to be direct services. Next up, number 2 is going to be program development. So this is where you as a mental health clinician or a mental health master level individual supports organizations, agencies, and community programs in developing mental health-based programming. This probably will also include maybe grant support with helping organizations develop grants surrounded by the mental health space. Number 3, utilization and management. So utilization and management is where you as a clinician, you audit and review patients' requests for services. So there is a variation of departments. So autism is one, because with autism, services are not guaranteed under a person's insurance benefits. And under utilization management, your job is to look at, okay, what has the clinician done? Is this particular client growing? What interventions, behavior supports have they put in place? What's effective, what's not effective? And it's your job to determine if that particular client for that clinician receives additional support, or if they get denied based on the information provided by the provider to the insurance company. So utilization management, you'd essentially be working within the insurance company, determining benefit coverage or approval of certain benefit coverage that a patient may have. Number 4, a professor or a teacher. Now, anyone can be a teacher with a master's degree, of course, but specifically we're talking about a professor. I have plenty of friends that are master level clinicians or providers or individuals that work on a university campus in a professor role. Like, you don't necessarily need a doctoral degree to be a professor. Some schools you do, others you don't. As long as they have enough PhD level professors, you don't necessarily need to have a PhD to be a professor at a university or at a community college. And under professor and teacher, that will also include probably a university dean. Some schools and universities don't necessarily require you to have a PhD if you have the years of experience behind your backing. Next up is going to be author. We all can be authors as educators. If there's a need in the space of literature and research, or even just children's books around mental health related supports and services, around grief, around divorce, around managing emotions, around making new friends, all of those things, you can definitely create or write children's books, or even adult books or journals, just anything that requires you to or that allows for you to create content in a as an author. You can do. You don't need anybody to tell you can or you can't do that, but you can do that. Public speaking. You do not need a license to do public speaking. If you have a license, that just makes you even more credible. But you can do public speaking in a space of motivational speaking. You can do public speaking to other clinicians in the field. You can do public speaking to individuals who need support in like self-esteem, personal growth, those types of things. Next up is going to be operating a private practice. In some states, you do need an unrestricted license to have a private practice. In Texas, you don't. You can operate your own private practice as an associate level provider. If you don't have a license, I'm not saying do something illegal or unethical, but you can also do coaching. You can do mentorship in regards to like couples coaching or one-on-one mentoring for college students that are looking for someone to support them in navigating becoming a licensed clinician. So you can do that. Next up is going to be training. Okay, training. You can train the next set of clinicians out here in the field. You can get certified. Your company, your private practice can get certified or approved to train as an NBCC approved training program, whatever you want to call it. You can be APT certified, which is play therapy. You can become MDRIA approved CEU provider. That's what I was looking for, CE provider. You can get approved with APA, the Social Work Licensing Board, the LMFT Licensing Board, whatever you can think of, you can do it. You can also train in psychological first aid or mental health first aid. Those are things that you can do with a license as a unrestricted provider, or even as a provisionally licensed clinician or an associate level. Next up is product development. So you heard me talk about becoming an author. In this case, you can do little things like make cups. You can make t-shirts. You can make designs for mental health related things. You can create artwork for therapy offices. You can do whatever in product development as a clinician, whether you have a license or not. There's a lot of products that you can make and sell on Amazon or on Etsy, or you could sell weighted blankets for those struggling with anxiety. You can sell weighted teddy bears. You can do whatever you want in product development. Is it going to be easy? No, nothing's easy when you have a business, but you can make it what you make it, right? Next up is going to be organization management. This is where you get hired to work for a company or an agency in which you work with the human resource department and you work with upper level management to support in pivoting the culture of the workplace environment. Your job is to take behavioral patterns of the employees. Your job is to take feedback from employees around why they behave or engage with upper level management the way that they do. And your job is to take that information, compile it into some sort of growth plan for the organization, and to help that organization pivot into a more positive direction if they are struggling. Number 11, mediation services. You can be a mediator as a clinician. Now, there are mediation certificates that you can get, but as a licensed clinician or a provisionally licensed clinician, you can be a mediator for a couple, for two parents in a co-parenting dynamic. You can be a mediator for employees with each other within an employment or within a organization or a company. You can do mediation services between two companies that have an agreement intact that they're struggling to fulfill together because of the disconnect between how the companies operate or whatever the situation is. You can be a mediator. Number 12, you can do assessments. Now, of course, that is a form of direct services, if you will, but you can do assessments for immigration. You can do diagnostic assessments. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you're always operating within your scope and practice, but you can very much well do those things. You can also do assessments for car accidents and different things like that. Just find you a good set of lawyers that are looking for certain mental health services, and you let them know that you're out here, you're in the community, you exist, this is your set fee. Some lawyers pay you ahead of time for the service, your cash rate, and others, they pay you once a settlement has been made. And then in other instances, the client themselves pay you directly. And these assessments are very important to a lot of people. So it's important to know that you can do assessments. Of course, operate within your scope and practice. And I think we can do all assessments except level C assessments, which is, I think a psychologist has to do those. So that's neither here nor there. Content creator / podcasting. This is an example of content creation. I'm creating content for individuals who are struggling to get where they're trying to get in the mental health field. Podcasting, talking to other individuals, talking to people who are in need of mental health based material to help them get over because they can't afford direct services, whether they're underinsured or they're just in a position where they don't have the time or they can't afford to do therapy. And then with content creation and podcasting, there's also television, TV shows that you can create. There's a lot of different things that you can do. I think there's a show called The Therapist, where that clinician works with celebrities. I'm pretty sure we probably have all seen that show. I think it's called The Therapist. I could be wrong. Next up is going to be number 14, which is advocacy. If you don't want to do direct services, you can go out and be a huge advocate for licensed individuals in the mental health field that need someone to go out and do that. So what is advocacy? This is where you are going to the licensing board on behalf of clinicians. This is where you are going to the federal and state levels, advocating for mental health, better mental health outcomes for individuals in the community seeking mental health supports. You can be out here helping advocate with the development of new programs in your community. You can advocate for whatever it is that makes sense in regard to mental health. You can definitely do that. Number 15 is supervision. Now, here's the fun part. Not only can you do supervision for provisionally licensed clinicians, depending on where you are, if you are licensed and you are not a state board approved supervisor, you can still very much well do supervision for practicum students if that's what you feel good about doing. And some schools pay you to provide supervision to their practicum students while out in the field. You can also do supervision for psychiatric nurse practitioners and physician assistants. There's a lot of master level nurse practitioner programs and physician assistant programs that require clinicians who are going into psychiatric care to go into a therapy space to really see what psychotherapy looks like. And I like that nurse practitioner programs and physician assistant programs and physician programs are now requiring this as a part of their internship time, whether it's just, hey, they're going to have to get 200 hours. We'll pay you for this student to be here and to shadow you and to engage in direct services. But you can very much well do supervision. I can't tell you any companies off the top of my head, but I've had a few nurse practitioner placement site companies reach out and say, hey, can you supervise 3 nurse practitioners this semester? I have not engaged in that right now just because my time commitments just aren't there. But that's very much well something that you can do as a LPC supervisor. Probably not as an associate, but as an associate, or a master level clinician, you can very much well probably do practicum supervision, depending on the program, and depending on your area, because there's a lot of students that are in rural spaces or that are in places where there is a shortage of mental health, unrestricted mental health providers who are supporting with the initiative of training up the next group of clinicians. Number 16, mentorship. Now, I know I kind of talked about this briefly when I mentioned number 7, which is private practice, but mentorship. There's a lot of people that are seeking mentorship-based services, such as the upcoming clinicians that are trying to get into private practice that don't have experience with that, the upcoming clinicians that need support into propelling their career to the next level, mentorship of individuals in the community who need mental health-based mentorship support to help them build and organize programs. But people pay for mentorship all the time. People are looking for mentors. There's a shortage of mentors out there specifically for Black clinicians. We don't have people that we can go to and talk to. And it's mostly because of capacity, right? Like if you're the first person in your family coming out and you're the first one becoming successful, you don't have the capacity to carry the family on your back, but also try to help mentor someone else, especially when it comes with no fee of your time, right? So just kind of keep that in mind, is that it's okay to charge for mentorship. I'm not saying go out here and spend and charge $300 for a mentorship session. No, not that it's diabolical, but it's just not. It might not be feasible for the individuals who are seeking that. Number 17, app development or app specialist. So this is where you get to develop an app to help further the progression of something using your mental health expertise. This could be you also supporting on specialty positions in video game development as well. There's a lot of psychology and psychologists and clinicians that work with video game designers and creators who need clinicians to help them with determining what's safe and what's not safe in regarding to a video game. Or you can also do research in that space as well. So you can app development, video game development, and then you can also be a specialist, and you can be a specialist on an app. You can be a specialist on video games, and you can also be a specialist on working for a technology company such as like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, that kind of helps design these addictive apps and help identify poor outcomes of the apps and positive outcomes in the apps and so forth. Next up is number 18. You can work with celebrities, and you can be a celebrity clinician if you would call it that, but more specifically, I'm talking about working on site of movie sets where you are supporting actors and actresses as they are coming off sets in which those roles were very, very difficult for them. And there's been a lot more actors and actresses advocating for having licensed mental health professionals on site. I don't know of any companies, but I'm more than sure that if you live in states like California or Atlanta or any state that is very much movie heavy or celebrity heavy, you can very much probably find those roles. I don't know where to start with those, but I'm pretty sure there's some type of agency or organization that will contract a licensed mental health professional to do just that. The movie or the show, the short series, or maybe it was a movie, I don't remember, called Swarm with Dominique, I forget her last name, but she's relatively young, very beautiful. But she played a serial killer behind a celebrity, and people were saying like it was mimicking the Beyonce story or whatever the situation is. She talked about how difficult one of the scenes was for her during the filming, and she talked about how she had access to a licensed mental health professional that was on site for her. So you may want to start there and start doing research from there. The next up, number 19, you can host retreats. You can host healing retreats. You can host retreats for other mental health professionals. You can host retreats for couples. You can host retreats for individuals that are really, really struggling to find community and support. You can build vision board retreats, whatever you want to build, you can do it. I guarantee you there's someone out there looking for a service that's not out there yet, and they can't wrap their brain around where to find it. It's okay for you to be that person to give it to them. Lastly, number 20 is that you can be a consultant or an auditor. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is I have a lot of friends out in the field that are licensed clinicians, and they ask me to come in and say, hey, can you audit where I'm at with how I'm doing as far as, do I have all my documentation? Where will insurance deny some of my claims? Do I have everything in the charts that are needed for medical necessity, and to make sure that these clients' claims are not being denied? How is my front office staff doing when you call my office? Can you come in and act as a consultant or an auditor, or even train my staff to do certain trainings? And I've done a few trainings for some of my colleagues out of the field where they paid me to come in and do certain trainings. You can also audit an entire private practice. You can audit hospitals. You can audit insurance companies. You can do anything in the auditing and consulting space. And so just kind of keep those things in mind. There's a lot that you can do with your license. And I will say that you have highly sought certifications, trainings, and expertise and experience. So I guarantee you that there's a lot of things that you can do. And the one thing that I also didn't include on this list that I'll just throw in there here now that we're at the end of the video is probably going to be number 21, but research. Research. I love research. You can research. You can put out research articles. There's a lot that you can do as a licensed mental health provider, or even as a provider that's not licensed. So if you get out here and you realize, I don't want to do direct services primarily, maybe like 10 clients a week, and I want to find a way to make money other ways, this list is for you. So number 1, direct services, of course. Number 2, program development. Number 3, utilization management. Number 4, a professor or a teacher. Number 5, an author. Number 6, public speaking or keynote speaker. Number 7, operating a private practice. Number 8, training, offer training to other licensed mental health providers or companies or organizations in need of specific trainings. Product development is number 9. Number 10, organization management. Number 11, mediation services. Number 12, assessments. Number 13, content creation / podcasting / TV media broadcasting. Number 14, advocacy. Number 15, supervision. Number 16, mentorship. Number 17, app development, app video game specialist, app specialist, mental health specialist in that arena. Number 18, you can work with celebrities and actors and actresses. Number 19, you can host retreats. And number 20, you can be a consultant or an auditor. So that is your full-on list. I hope this was helpful. And I always talk to your supervisor, especially if they pivoted from industry to industry with that particular license and distinction, because that is going to be very, very helpful for you when you get to a place in your career where you're like, I'm 3 years in and this is overwhelming and I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm tired of being on and trying to find a space of capacity for other people 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and still do notes and still find time for myself. I'm tired, right? So keep that in mind. Save this video, bookmark it for later. As time continues to progress, I'm more than sure that there will be more careers that come up. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when we're talking about app development, video game specialists, all those things, keep AI in there. I forget about AI, but AI is a huge space that needs licensed mental health professionals or mental health professionals to come in and operate as a consultant or as a person to provide their insight to help develop or expand or increase their app effectiveness. So just keeping that out there. So I hope this video was helpful. Take what you need from it, share it with others, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, I now have my mentorship link in the bio. I now have a supervision link in the bio if you're someone licensed in Texas or an upcoming graduate in Texas and you're looking for a supervisor. I also have links to forms that you may need as a private practice owner. And yeah, I hope everything that you need is here. Take what you need.